Okay, we're going to talk about chapter 1. So please open the PowerPoint for the introduction to supply chain management, and let's start on slide number 4. So the first thing that this is going to talk about is what is a supply chain. You've probably heard this a lot lately because of COVID in the last 6 months. But a supply chain is the flow of products and services that it takes to get something from an unusable form, like a raw material. So if you have a pair of scissors, that's not a haircut. If you have carbonated water, that's not Coke, right? So you need to take whatever it is, the service or the good, and make it into something that you can use. And we're going to talk through what this is on slide 5. Warning and advice. Slide 5 is the first 20 points of your test. You will be given this drawing blank, and you will be asked to label every one of these items on the chart. So you need to look at this one. So that's slide 5. Take a good look at that. So on the left-hand side, we start there with raw materials and suppliers. So think about that as in the Coke example, water and the caramel coloring and the bottles and the caps and the labels and all that. If it's a service, it's the people, it's the training, let's go to our salon example, it's the sinks. It's all those things that it takes. Intermediate component manufacturers, which is that second set of circles going across the center, that is, let's say we've got the carbonated water and the caramel coloring mixed together, the flavoring, but we don't have it into a bottle yet. So it's partially assembled, partially manufactured, but it's not complete. Once we have that end product manufacturer finished, then we have to get it from where it's manufactured to either a distributor, a wholesaler. So think about if you're a convenience store, you don't buy from the same place that, say, Walmart or Amazon would buy from. You're going to buy from somebody that's in the middle, a distributor. Retailers are people like that, convenience store, something like that, and then the end product consumers, that's us. So at the top, you'll see we have product and service flow, and then we also have recycling and return. So think about when you buy a phone. A lot of times they will take the phone back at the end of your contract and they'll recycle some of those internal components and they'll give you a credit toward your bill. So we've got to get that back to the manufacturer, and then we've got to figure out how they're going to do something with it. Across the bottom, that light blue arrow is the integration of information and planning to make sure that all of this information is coordinated. So I am telling my suppliers, I'm telling my warehouse people, I'm telling my consumers what to expect and when to expect it. If you go to slide 6, you can read those. That's some definitions of supply chain management. You should probably be familiar with those. So on slide 7, the old paradigm is that everybody kind of did everything individually, and it was very what they called siloed. So the planning team was doing something, the suppliers were doing something, the IT team might be involved, but nothing was connected. The new paradigm is that everybody should share as much information as they possibly can, and that everybody works in the area that they know about the best. If you go to slide 8, the things that we're going to talk to you about now are demand forecast, how we're going to make a plan to figure out what we're going to produce. So if we are a salon, we're going to say we have 8 chairs, and it takes about 15 minutes to cut someone's hair. So at the max, we can do 4 haircuts per hour, because 4 times 15 is 60, which is an hour. So if we have 8 chairs, we know how many haircuts we can do a day. We know that people need to come and have some time for lunch. We know sometimes people are late. You can kind of figure out what your production plan will be. You can also figure that out if you're a manufacturing firm. So we're going to walk through that. We're going to talk about how we deal with production changes. We're going to talk about purchasing. We're going to talk about delivery. We're going to talk about all kinds of things. And that's why this is so important. So if you go to slide 9, that firms that are using good supply chain management practices start with their biggest suppliers. Their key suppliers may not always be their biggest suppliers, but they may be a supplier that no one else can supply what that supplier makes. They move on to other suppliers, their customers, the logistics, and things like that. So we're going to talk about all of this over time. You're going to hear on slide 10 about the bullwhip effect. The bullwhip effect is something that you'll hear almost every single part of this course for the next 8 weeks. Bullwhip is this. If I tell you that I need 10 of something and I'm buying it from you, and you say, okay, I need to go get some things from my suppliers, but I'm going to tell them that I need 11 because they're not very reliable and sometimes things are late. And then that supplier that you told 11 to goes to their supplier and says, I need 13 because I'm a little nervous that the quality might be bad or it might be late, on and on and on. What that ultimately does is it makes the person at the very end is ordering 15 or 16 of something when we really only need 10. And it makes way too much material in supply chain and everyone has to pay for that. So what it really does is it makes the price for the 10 that we originally wanted go up because everyone is ordering too much because they're afraid of uncertainty. And so they buffer that and they call that the bullwhip effect. And the reason they call it is if you think about how a bullwhip goes, is it's taking the correct demand and then it's sending it off way out of proportion. So that's why it's called that. You can look here. There's some information about the history of supply chain on slide 11. You don't need to know that. You don't need to know slide 12 or slide 13. You do need to know a couple of things on slide 13 just from an acronym standpoint. If they're in orange, they're usually something I want you to know for the test. SCM, supply chain management. If you hear G, SCM, that's global supply chain management. JIT is, don't say JIT, say JIT. JIT is just in time. And what that means is when we go to the grocery store, we don't order 18 gallons of milk because if we did, it would go bad, right? So we can't store it long enough before it goes bad. So we want things to get there when we need them, but not too soon. Not late. I don't want to run out of milk, but I don't want to have 5 gallons in my refrigerator because by the time I get to the 5th gallon, it's going to have gone bad. That's just in time. TQM is total quality management. We'll do a whole chapter on that. And then BPR, or some people call it IBP, but business process re-engineering. You're going to talk about 3 PLs. If you look there on the bottom, 3 PLs, you also have 4 PLs, are third-party service providers. So they're people that provide warehousing services. A lot of times they'll work with international shipments for you, and they will provide order fulfillment and things like that. They're very popular now. We're going to talk through slide 15 and slide 16 in very big detail. This book has a lot about ethics and a lot about sustainability. They're very concerned about the environment, so we'll talk about that a lot. We're going to talk about lean. We're going to talk about Six Sigma on slide 17. Slide 18, we're going to talk about some things in logistics relative to transportation and customer relationship management and how we design the network of carriers and warehouses and distribution centers that are going to get our product to the place where we need it on time. We are going to talk about on slide 19, supply chain process integration and how we want to go not just within our own firm, making sure our planners know what our buyers know, what our production schedulers know. We're also going to want to make sure all of our suppliers know and our customers. Think about when you place an order from Amazon and they tell you immediately that it's going to be there, and then the day that it's coming, it usually sends you a note, your shipment is 5 stops away or whatever. That is that is horizontal integration across the supply chain. We're going to talk about some of the things that we are relative to outsourcing, so backshoring, nearshoring, right-shoring, and how to manage supply chain risk. So on slide 22, the very last thing we're going to talk about in this chapter is increasing supply chain visibility. And what we mean by that is that if I am the person that is trying to decide 2 weeks from now in my salon, how many people do I need to staff for my salon? I have 8 chairs, let's just say. But I might know, hey, there's a Texans game that day, so probably a lot of people are not going to come in. Men are definitely going to be less likely to come in on a day when there's a large sporting event. Last year at this time, school had already started and people really didn't come in at the end of September, that kind of thing. So I'm going to look at my schedule. I'm going to look at some historicals, but I need visibility to, do I have enough shampoo? Do I have everything that I need ordered? Am I going to be running low on scissors? Am I going to be running low on, smocks? Is there enough laundry detergent to wash everything that I need? All those things are supply chain visibility. Do I have everything it's going to take to run my business based on the demand that I expect? I'm going to have you close up chapter 1 now, and then you can have a look at chapter 2. So get those slides open, close this video, and go ahead and open up the video for chapter 2.